I mean, you know what they say. You gotta give the people what they want.
You scared me.
I'll show you something scary.
You guys asked for it. I'm just doing what you asked for. What's going on, you guys? TBR here, back yet again with another King of Fighters All-Star video, and in today's video, as per your guys' requests, we are going to be going in today and we are going to be testing out my God Nameless build versus Nightmare Geese in both Lunatic and Expert difficulty, as well as giving you guys a little bit of a bonus clip in here as well, because I decided, hey, why not try and test his metal against things such as Immortals using nothing but gold border characters for teammates. And yeah, it was pretty good. But anyway, before we get into all of that, make sure if you guys haven't already done so that you smash that like button and subscribe if you enjoy daily King of Fighters All-Star content such as this. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into another Boss Syndrome Shadow the Hedgehog video. I mean Boss Syndrome Nameless. I mean Boss Syndrome Nameless. I am messing this up big time, aren't I? Now, for those of you who didn't see yesterday's video, you definitely are going to want to check that one out before you get into this one, because I'm not going to be going completely over all of the build details like I did in yesterday's video, being the fact that this is going to be the exact same build as I used yesterday, and I showed off yesterday and broke down yesterday, with the lone exception of whenever I am in Nightmare Geese Lunatic difficulty, I am going to be not using this card, and I'm going to instead be using the SHERMIE option card against Lunatic in at least one clip in this video today, but I did go ahead and test the normal build against Nightmare Geese as well in Lunatic, not using the SHERMIE option card, which will be another clip that you'll see in this video, just for comparison's sake, and yeah, it's pretty darn good. So just a brief overview of the build. Like I said, we talked about it in full detail yesterday, but for the most part, this is what you guys are going to be seeing in this video, like I said. Otherwise, I do go ahead and I do denote in the footage when I use this, but I went ahead and used the SHERMIE option card for the shield shred for the shock damage in Lunatic difficulty in lieu of using this here. So that's pretty much what you guys are going to be seeing in that particular footage. And then of course, yesterday we talked about our imprint stones as well. We do have the same imprint stones on this version of the build as what we used yesterday. So pretty much everything that we talked about yesterday is going to remain consistent. With this build, there's very little that I can see as far as what I would like to change here at this point. I do for sure think that I am going to obviously be changing out the Star and the Moon stones whenever I can get some gold stones that are going to have the right dot. But for now, I'm just going ahead and using what I've got, including this one here, even though it's a Starlight stone, because it is double attack. So that is why I'm using this one. But otherwise, I think that part of what I would like to do with this character once I get myself some more of the unpairing kits, because again, I just don't have any. But basically, I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is I think I'm going to take this one here off, and I want to try out the crit stone for the hexagon stone. That's probably going to be something that I try out here, especially considering the fact that this is pretty much a heavily invested crit Nameless. You know, when we went over yesterday's build and you look at, particularly with my Shizuru set, my transcendental effects with this character, I definitely have quite a bit of crit on this character right now, and that's partially why you guys are seeing such obscene numbers with this version of this character that I've built. But that's just something I wanted to kind of throw in here. Once I get unpairing kits, I will test it out, and if it feels like it makes a big enough difference, I will do another video on this character. That way you guys can kind of see what you're looking at with the difference there. But really, when it comes to this build, you guys, some takeaways when it comes to Nightmare Geese, there's really not a whole lot of big ones. When it comes to the Nightmare Geese fight, you really don't have to worry about a whole lot. This character, of course, is going to have that core. If we take a look here, I don't know if you guys are aware, but you know, this character has a little core here that makes him immune to burn and darkness, which is kind of a big deal, especially against Nightmare Geese. So for things such as the ground aura and so on and so forth, you really don't even have to worry about it. In fact, I would recommend, as long as your Nameless is at some considerable awakening level, just tanking through almost everything, because this character, because of his sustain, because of the fact that he can heal in 2 different ways, thanks to his core and his 3PG finisher, this character really doesn't doesn't care very much about what Nightmare Geese is doing at any given point. Really, the only thing that does much of any damage to him is honestly Nightmare Geese's basic attacks, I've noticed. That's about it. So, you know, really, if you can manage to dodge correctly with this character, which you should be able to do at this point if you've been playing long enough, so you shouldn't really have to worry about it that much, and you can just pile on damage whenever it comes to the shield down scenario. That is why I use the SHERMIE option card for this character. However, this version, my version, is going to be able to shred shield even without the SHERMIE option, but if you guys do not have a build similar to this one, which I realize is a very premium build like I talked about yesterday, then you'll want to go ahead and use the SHERMIE option. The SHERMIE option in Lunatic is going to give you that shock damage, and even though it isn't necessarily going to be the most reliable sometimes, and sometimes you won't get this when you really would like to have it, it is going to be beneficial for you, because once you have this on here, you're going to notice a pretty big difference, especially, like I said, if your Nameless is not as heavily invested as mine. I get the feeling that because I have so much crit damage on here, and because of the build that I have, I was able to shred the shield so well without the SHERMIE option because of those things. So I don't necessarily know that you'll be able to replicate that sort of performance without it, unless you have some of these transcendental effects like I have. And something that I had kind of talked about yesterday, not on video, but to several people on my Discord about, and I know a lot of people have been talking about it recently, is transcendental effects. So when it comes to transcendental effects, you guys, something I've always told you guys, and something I still recommend to this day, is don't chase after transcendental effects. So like, for instance, whenever you saw this build yesterday, all I did is I went in and I just transcended this thing to max and lived with whatever the best effect I rolled for each card respectively was. I just happened to get really lucky with some of the ones that I got on here. So like, for instance, whenever you see that I got the critical damage for defense type fighters on this one, and then I got the critical damage for defense type fighters on this one, and then I got, I believe, darkness damage on this first one here. None of these were re-rolled. This was just what I ended up with, the best, most beneficial effects that I could pick from the pool that I got to choose from as I was transcending each one of these. So I didn't do any kind of extra transcending. So again, guys, I always recommend, you know, with regular 5-star cards kind of like this here, it's okay to do so because you're going to see a lot of 5-star cards over time. However, when it comes to some of these other cards, like your 6-star cards, I definitely would not recommend that you guys do that. Because if you do, chances are you're just going to be wasting a ton of resources, and it's really not worth it. I just work with what I get, so that's kind of how I do things. The only time I've really heavily tried to re-roll on anything was, I believe, my Tekken set. I believe that was it, if I remember correctly. Let me see. Just trying to remember here. Pretty sure, yeah. It was just my Tekken sets. I mean, there might have been 1 or 2 in here that every once in a while I might throw an extra card at here or there, but for the most part, I've never really done that. So I don't really recommend that you guys do either, to be honest with you guys. I think that you'd be better off just kind of living with what you get, and then over time, if you end up having a bunch of stuff extra laying around, eventually you can maybe re-roll, but for most people, it's going to be a huge investment, especially if you're free to play. So keep that in mind, you guys. That's just something I know a lot of people had talked about yesterday, and I kind of wanted to bring up. So anyway, you guys, we are going to go ahead and get into the footage now. Another thing that I did is I did go ahead and I'll take a look at my fame real quick. Nothing's changed from the last couple videos, but I'll show you guys real quick. Now, in the other clip that you guys are going to see in this video, I did go ahead and go up against Immortal Typhoon using my Boss Syndrome Nameless. And basically what I went ahead and did is I went ahead and I put a team of gold border characters with him, and I just put 2 green gold border characters with him, whichever the first 2 I saw as I was scrolling through my roster when it was set to just to filter to green characters, really, to be honest with you. And yeah, it was impressive. So the biggest thing that I noticed about that run is after the first Awakening rotation with Nameless against Immortal Typhoon, I was able to do over 350 million damage. So the fact that he can push 400 million damage against an Immortal basically by himself is another reason why this character is so damn absurd. And to be honest with you guys, at this point, I don't really know where the ceiling is with this character as far as his performance and his versatility, but I intend to find out. So anyway, you guys, we're going to go ahead and jump into the footage. I hope you guys find it fun and informative. If you do, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe. I'll be back with tomorrow's video, but until then, you guys take care. Peace.